Have you ever noticed that the simple act of concentrating has become a luxury? That reading 2 pages in a row without checking your phone feels almost heroic? The world says you lost your focus, but the truth is, it was stolen. Stolen by a culture that wants you tired, distracted, and always chasing something that never arrives. Modern life has turned your brain into a battlefield. Every notification, a bomb. Every feed, a minefield of dopamine. And while you try to focus, the system tries to capture you. But what if the problem wasn't you? What if your distraction were a symptom of a sick world, not a personal failure? In recent years, they've called this the ADHD generation. Intelligent, creative young people, but permanently scattered. Unable to stop, even when they want to. The question is, are we really sick or just reacting to the sickness of the world? Because maybe the focus you lost isn't gone. It's just trapped beneath layers of anxiety, excess, and guilt. And in this video, you're going to discover how to set it free. If topics like psychology, philosophy, and the darkness of the human soul interest you, subscribe to the channel now. From which part of the world are you watching this video right now? Leave your answer in the comments. He wakes up, grabs his phone, opens the wrong app, but scrolls anyway. In less than 10 minutes, he's already seen a sad cat, a war, 3 dances, and an ad for a miracle supplement. And all that before coffee. It's as if the modern brain has turned into a browser with 50 tabs open, all playing different songs. The mind wants peace, but dopamine demands chaos. In the past, distraction was a luxury. Today, it's routine. Modern life has pushed focus into an invisible war zone between notifications, deadlines, and the eternal feeling of being late. And the strangest part is that no one feels like they chose this. The world just kept getting faster, louder, more urgent, until thinking calmly became an act of resistance. It may sound exaggerated, but focus has become an atrophied muscle. Before, we used to read thick books and feel proud. Now, if a video lasts more than 30 seconds, the finger itches to skip it. The brain, used to instant stimulation, starts rejecting anything that requires patience. It's like trying to teach a hamster how to meditate. And the cruelest part is that this state of mental fragmentation is sold as productivity. Do more, be more, think faster. But no one warns that the price is the soul. We live running to feel alive, when in truth we're just exhausted. And focus, which once was power, has become a memory. But wait, the problem isn't just the phone. It's the symptom, not the cause. What's really at stake is a culture that rewards haste but punishes depth. That idolizes multitasking but forgets that no flower grows when its root keeps jumping from pot to pot. The result is a new kind of exhaustion, silent, invisible, disguised as modern life. You feel like you work a lot, but produce little. Surrounded by information, but understanding nothing. With access to everything, but unable to focus on anything. It's the fatigue of a mind without a center. And maybe that's why so many people feel lost, confused, empty. Not because they lack will, but because they lack silence. The mind has become a reflection of the world, noisy, accelerated, disorganized. And in the midst of so much stimulation, even the simple act of focusing has become a rare privilege. But what if focus weren't just a matter of discipline? What if it were a symptom of something much deeper? Something spiritual, perhaps? That's what the next point begins to reveal. The secret psychology of focus and why our minds, tired of surviving, have stopped wanting to live. We live in an invisible casino, and the roulette spins inside our pocket. Each notification is a small bet. Will something good come now? A message, a bit of relief? When it comes, the brain sets off fireworks. When it doesn't, it asks for more. It's an addictive cycle, a sequence of promises that never fulfill. And yet, we spin again. Dopamine, that mischievous molecule, is the engine of motivation. But the modern system hijacked that engine and put it to work against us. Easy pleasure became a product, and desire became a tool of control. Companies don't sell content, they sell stimuli. What they truly commercialize is your attention, and the price is your focus. When the brain gets used to instant rewards, it starts to despise anything that requires effort. Reading a book, studying, talking to someone, all of that starts to seem boring. It is as if the brain says, "Why spend energy if I can get pleasure now?" The age of dopamine is the age of giving up disguised as fun. The curious thing is that this prison is sweet. We know we are being manipulated, but we do not want to leave. Because dopamine gives small crumbs of happiness, just enough to keep believing that one day the feast will come. It is the same trick used in casinos, on social media, and even in relationships that never move forward but never end. And this is where the modern collapse comes in. The human mind was designed to hunt, explore, create. But today, it hunts likes, explores feeds, and creates anxiety. We are hungry for meaning but full of distraction. Dopamine promised freedom but gave us golden collars. If you look closely, everything around you encouraged the same pattern. Immediate gratification, fast consumption, small and constant rewards. This overdose of banal pleasure makes it impossible to sustain any real kind of focus. After all, how can you meditate if your brain is in permanent hunting mode? That is why so many people feel with ADHD, even without a diagnosis. Because the environment was designed for it. It is not that you lost focus. It is that the world stole your ability to have it. The scattered mind became the new standard, and the worst part is that they made us think it is our fault. But what if dopamine were not the enemy? What if the problem were the way we use it? The next point dives exactly into that. What differentiates a mind enslaved by stimuli from a mind that has learned to use dopamine as fuel, not as chains? Imagine your brain as an old computer trying to run a modern game. It freezes, overheats, beeps, and in the end, you just want to shut it down. That is how the mind reacts to the excess of modern stimuli. It is not laziness, it is overload. Attention was made for a jungle, not for an infinite feed. The human mind evolved to deal with concrete dangers. Lions, storms, hunger. But today, it fights notifications, deadlines, and the constant feeling of being late for something you do not even know what it is. This creates background anxiety, an invisible tension that drains mental energy before the day even begins. The result is a divided mind. Part of it wants to rest, part wants to produce, and neither can. The feeling is like pressing the accelerator and the brake at the same time. Then comes exhaustion, apathy, and guilt. Because even tired, you feel guilty for not doing more. It is a subtle sabotage. The system demands productivity, but bombards you with distractions. It wants you to be creative, but floods you with noise. The modern world convinces you that focus is a virtue, but sells you addictions with every click. It is the kind of trap that even Nietzsche would call cosmic irony. And when this saturation becomes chronic, the brain enters defense mode. It avoids any task that requires prolonged effort. That is why studying feels like torture, working feels like punishment, and even hobbies start to feel like obligations. Pleasure becomes contaminated, focus evaporates, and boredom takes over. Many try to solve this with more stimulation, more coffee, more motivational videos, more productivity apps. But what is collapsing is not time, it is the system. You do not need more tools. You need less noise. The problem was never a lack of strength, but an excess of interference. The truth is that the modern brain is living in a permanent state of alert, always waiting for the next message, the next task, the next danger. And when everything is a priority, nothing is truly important. The mind loses direction, and without direction, focus is nothing but a mirage. But there is a way to reprogram this system. It is not about turning everything off and moving to the woods, although sometimes that sounds tempting. It is about understanding what truly moves the human mind and how to reconnect focus with meaning. And that is exactly where the next point begins. Nietzsche used to say that he who has a why can bear almost any how. And maybe that is the most neglected secret of focus. Because focus is not born from willpower. It is born from meaning. The mind only fully commits when it believes it is worth it. Without purpose, effort becomes torture. That is why you can spend hours playing a difficult game, but cannot stand 5 minutes of an important text. In the game, the brain understands the why. There is progress, reward, purpose. In real life, everything seems disconnected. Work, study, wake up. But for what, really? Motivation that comes from fear or obligation is fragile. It can push you for a while but collapses at the first frustration. When it comes from within, from something that represents you, that challenges you, focus comes naturally. It is the famous flow state, that moment when time disappears and there is only you and the task. And here lies the problem of the modern generation. We live surrounded by goals, but without a why. We want success, but do not know what it means. We want attention, but forget who we want to be seen by. It is like sailing with the engine on, but without direction, and the fuel of focus runs out. When Nietzsche talks about purpose, he is not referring to a divine mission, but to inner coherence, to align action and essence. And that is rare today, because modern life trains us to seek approval, not authenticity. We study what gives status, work for what gives money, and get lost in what does not give peace. Finding meaning is like rekindling the lighthouse of the mind. Suddenly, focus is no longer something forced. It flows. You do not need to force yourself to do, because doing becomes the expression of who you are. And the more genuine your reason, the deeper your focus. It is biology, but it is also soul. Of course, this requires courage, because sometimes the true meaning goes against everything the world values. Sometimes it asks you to slow down while everyone else runs, to create something new while the rest just copy. Focus is the prize of those who dare to live according to their own axis, not the algorithm. And this is where an important turning point arises. If meaning is the fuel of focus, the environment is the tank. There is no use having purpose if you pour it into toxic soil. And the next point reveals exactly that, how the world around you was designed to empty your tank and how to escape this trap. Imagine living in a polluted aquarium and thinking the problem lies with the fish. That is exactly what happens with our minds. When focus disappears, the first reaction is to blame yourself. I am lazy. I am distracted. I have ADHD. But what if the problem were not the fish, but the water? The modern environment is contaminated, and we do not even notice. Working, studying, socializing, everything was designed for excess. Lights, sounds, notifications, stimuli all the time. We live immersed in a noise that feels natural, but it is not. The mind never turns off because the world never stops. And the more exposed it is to this chaos, the more it defends itself, turning off focus as a reflex of self-protection. It is curious how the body understands what consciousness ignores. When the environment is toxic, the body becomes tired, irritated. It tries to warn you, but we respond with coffee. If the head hurts, we take medicine. If focus disappears, we open the phone. It is like trying to extinguish a fire with gasoline. The psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the man with the unpronounceable name, said that the environment shapes the flow of the mind. In a chaotic place, the mind scatters. In a calm one, it flows. But what happens when chaos becomes the norm? Concentration becomes resistance, and peace, a luxury for the few. The saddest part is that this environment was made to drain us, not to sustain us. With every notification, a piece of you is drained away. With every comparison, a bit of your self-esteem escapes. The system wants you alert, but never awake. It wants you productive, but never present. And in the end, the body adapts to this silent poisoning. You even think you are fine, but live tired, apathetic, distracted. It is the syndrome of the polluted mind, a state where the external noise seeps in so deeply that inner silence starts to feel strange. And when silence feels frightening, focus dies. But it is not about escaping the world. It is about purifying it. Small gestures already clean the water. Silencing notifications, organizing your environment, creating rituals of pause. Focus is born where there is space, physical, mental, and emotional. The question is, have you given your own focus space to exist? And if the environment influences so much, what happens when you change the way you relate to it? The next point dives into that, how to transform distraction into presence, and use the same world that scatters you as a tool to rebuild yourself. Regaining focus is not like pressing a button. It is like relearning how to breathe. At first, it feels hard, strange, almost useless. But it is precisely that discomfort that shows how much you have forgotten how to be present. Focus is not a gift, it is a practice, and every practice begins in silence. The modern mind is like a hyperactive child. There is no point in yelling at it. It needs patience. When you try to force focus, it runs away. But when you create a calm space, it returns on its own. That is why the most creative ideas come in the shower. During a walk, in idleness. Focus is shy. It only appears when the noise quiets down. The secret is to slow down. It sounds obvious, but it is revolutionary. In a world that pushes you to run, stopping is an act of rebellion. Doing one thing at a time has become subversive. But it is there, in simplicity, that the mind starts to trust you again. And when it trusts, it surrenders. Small rituals help. Waking up without checking your phone in the first few minutes. Doing something manual, like cooking or drawing. Writing without thinking about posting. These actions teach the brain that not everything needs an external reward. Little by little, it rediscovers the pleasure of being fully immersed in a single thing. Another powerful practice is deliberate presence. Doing whatever you are doing, but truly being there. If you are washing the dishes, wash the dishes. If you are reading, read. No music, no distractions, no running from boredom. Because it is in boredom that focus is born. It is there that the brain reorganizes and starts to enjoy its own company. Meditation, of course, is the ultimate training for this process. But you do not need to sit in lotus position on top of a mountain. Meditating is noticing the now, breathing deeply and remembering that time is not running away, you are. And the more you return, the more focus returns with you. The irony is that focus was always there. Modern life just covered it with noise, haste, and guilt. When you start clearing those layers, you discover something ancient, a natural, calm attention that does not need to be conquered, only remembered. Focus is the original state of the mind when it stops fighting itself. But even when you find it again, there is still a hidden enemy lurking, the culture of hyperproductivity. It makes focus serve work, not life. And that is what the next point reveals. The danger of confusing focus with performance, and why this confusion is exhausting an entire generation. We live in an era where rest has become a sin and focus, a tool for profit. The modern world does not want you to concentrate to live better. It wants you to concentrate to produce more. The difference is subtle but destructive. When focus serves the system and not the soul, it stops being a virtue and becomes slavery. It is curious. The more tools we create to save time, the less time seems to remain. Apps, schedules, productivity techniques. Everything promises freedom but delivers anxiety. The mind never rests because focus has turned into performance. You do not work to finish. You work to prove you are always busy. The logic of hyperproductivity turns even leisure into a task. We read to post, train to film, travel to prove. Nothing is lived for the joy of living, but for the return it might bring. It is capitalism infiltrated even into rest, making it impossible to relax without guilt. Nietzsche would say this is the price of living without your own meaning. When you do not know why you do what you do, the world decides for you. And the modern world has decided that your value is what you produce. That is why you feel useless when you are not performing, even when your body is begging you to stop. This culture creates an entire generation in a state of exhaustion disguised as ambition. Brilliant young people believing they are failures for not enduring a routine that even machines could not sustain. Focus ceases to be an instrument of creation and becomes a tool of self-punishment. "I need to focus" turns into a sentence, not a choice. The problem is that this race never ends. The more you do, the more the system demands. And deep down, the mind knows it is impossible to win. That is why so many live between burnout and guilt, alternating between hyperfocus and paralysis. It is the perfect cycle to keep you productive and unhappy. But there is a way out to redefine what focus means. Not as obedience, but as presence. To focus is not to produce more. It is to be fully present in what you do, even if what you do is nothing. True focus frees you because it reconnects you with life, not with spreadsheets. It is the point where efficiency and humanity meet again. And it is precisely this reconciliation between focus and presence that the next point will explore, the return to essence. Because in the end, what destroys our focus is not the excess of stimuli, but the lack of meaning. And the path to recover it may be the same that has always been before us, remembering who we are. In the end, focus is not something you conquer. It is something you remember. Beneath all the notifications, goals, and expectations, there still exists a mind that knows how to be present. A mind that, as a child, was enchanted by the wind hitting the window. That mind never died. It was only buried under the noise of the world. Recovering focus is, in truth, a journey back home. It is looking within and finding what the noise made you forget. That attention is the greatest gift you can give to something and to yourself. When you truly pay attention, everything changes. The ordinary becomes profound. The simple becomes sacred. Perhaps the secret is not to try to focus more, but to allow yourself to feel more. Modern life has numbed feeling, and a numb mind never concentrates. Because focus is born from emotion, from the bond with what matters. When something touches the heart, the whole body listens. And where there is emotion, there is presence. That is why true focus is not about technique, but about truth. When you live according to what is authentic to you, focus returns naturally. It does not need to be forced because it is guided by meaning. And meaning is the kind of energy that no distraction can steal. The return to the silent self is simple, but not easy. It is allowing yourself to be without answers, without stimulation, without plans. It is accepting emptiness without trying to fill it. Because in silence, the mind organizes itself. In emptiness, focus renews itself. It is in the space between one thought and another that consciousness breathes. And when you begin to live this way, with less haste and more presence, something changes. Tasks regain meaning. Conversations gain depth. Time slows down. It is as if the world, for a few seconds, regains its color. And focus, which once seemed lost, reveals itself as the natural state of being alive. Maybe that is what Nietzsche meant by, "He who has a why can bear almost any how." Focus is not about enduring the world. It is about remembering why it is worth being in it. And that memory is born only when you silence the noise and listen to the sound that comes from within. Because in the end, the true antidote to distraction is not discipline. It is presence. And perhaps the greatest act of rebellion of the ADHD generation is this: learning to be. The next step is simple but profound: to transform this recovered focus into action. That is what comes next. Have you noticed that the simple act of concentrating has become a luxury? That reading 2 pages in a row without checking your phone feels almost heroic. The world says you lost your focus, but the truth is that it was stolen. Stolen by a culture that wants you tired, distracted, and always chasing something that never comes. Modern life turned your brain into a battlefield. Each notification, a bomb. Each feed, a minefield of dopamine. And while you try to concentrate, the system tries to capture you. But what if the problem is not you? What if your distraction is a symptom of a sick world, not a personal flaw? In recent years, they have called this the ADHD generation. Intelligent, creative young people, but permanently scattered. Unable to stop, even when they want to. The question is, are we really sick or just reacting to the sickness of the world? Because maybe the focus you lost is not gone. It is just trapped under layers of anxiety, excess, and guilt. And in this video, you will discover how to free it. So what did you think of all this? Do you also feel that the world has stolen your focus, or that you were the one who got lost in it? How many times have you tried to concentrate and ended up feeling guilty for not managing to? Now that you understand why, tell me, which part touched you the most? And more importantly, who do you want me to talk about in the next video? Nietzsche, Jung, Machiavelli, or maybe another thinker capable of revealing what is hidden behind the modern mind? Write it down in the comments. And if this video made you think, made you feel, or simply made you pause for a few minutes, subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell. Here, we learn to think deeply and to live with presence. These 2 videos in front of you are not here by accident. And what if everything you believe about yourself is just a reflection of someone else's gaze? Click now on one of the videos beside and start breaking that mirror. You will have to risk the click. So, which one will you choose?